7 o'clock on Monday, November 30th. I want to convene the meeting of the West Newbury Board of Selectmen. Mr. Kemper is unable to join us this evening. He's had a fairly severe injury, burn to his foot, so he's unable not unable to walk, but unable to go outside. The first item on the agenda is the public hearing for no parking at the corner of Whetstone Street and Sullivan Court. I want to open the public hearing, and because Mr. Kemper's not here, we're going to continue the public hearing until December 14th at 7 p.m. I don't know if you guys are here for that. No, okay. The other thing with that is just want to remind people that the winter parking ban goes into effect tomorrow, so starting tomorrow night, there's no parking on any public street overnight. Second item on the agenda is the department head's goals for 2016. Archie, I don't know if you have any comments.
I have to say no. I'm pretty good with a lot of these things. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I didn't really either. I was looking at the inspection department, and yeah, I thought. I mean, I don't know how to phrase it, but if somehow we can have better compliance of our construction regulations. You know, there's been a lot of issues at Sullivan's Court area. So I don't know what you think about that.
Well, I think somehow I don't know what even what the terminology would be, but is it possible that the police force can be not deputized, but allowed to carry out, deal with complaints related to that are obvious violations of the building laws on off hours when the building inspector isn't available. And I don't know how we get to that.
Yeah, I mean, I personally think that's a great idea. I mean, I think we want to have Glenn Closey and the police chief in. We had talked about that a couple of meetings ago to talk about this. So something for the future. The only other thing is, I wonder if we could get the goals from Mr. Bertino for the finance department and Mr. McCarron for the town clerk's office.
I thought we already submitted those.
Yeah.
You did?
I
Yeah,
know mine, I submitted mine as well.
that was back in June.
These are for this fiscal year, not last year? You
Yeah,
did?
they were for this year.
Okay, I don't have them.
I saw them. Yeah.
I
Oh.
went over with them.
Okay. Maybe I didn't get them in my
Yeah,
packet.
I can forward them to you.
Sure.
Thought that in June was for
The results? Yeah, these are for fiscal 16, your new ones.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I know, I can forward them to you.
Okay, fine.
I think too.
Okay, I just don't have them. Thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda is salaries and overtime. I think we had asked to look at the expenditure report for the first quarter, and I know the overtime lines were in excess of what was budgeted in in a number of departments, in excess of what was budgeted percent to date, so to speak. But I think the salary lines were commensurately understated. So I know, did you have comments on this?
Yeah, I'd like to ask Mr. Bertino about just I know these are specific, it's hard to give an exact answer, but how he feels about whether it's a good idea to have additional full-time people. In other words, is it is there a point where where there is too much overtime in a department versus having additional people that are just hiring additional people that are making regular hour wages versus overtime wages? Obviously, you save on say, health insurance or whatever it is with someone that's on overtime, but is there a point where there's too much overtime? I think that's a question I'd like to see if there's a philosophy that we should be looking for.
Personally, when I look at the overtime and you want to compare it year to year, you really want to look at overtime as a percentage of the salary line item. So if our salary line item for DPW is say $400,000 for the staff, you really want to measure overtime $400,000 over the dollar amount of overtime. And I can honestly say, looking at it in all of the departments, it doesn't raise an eyebrow to me. The level of overtime appropriated is below what I would consider to be excessive. So there is, as far as the percentage of the DPW overtime, their overtime budget is only, I believe it's $10,000. So it's roughly 2.5% of their, on a 400, it's only 2.5%. If it was 40,000, the cost of, almost a body, then you would consider it. But a lot of times what overtime is used for is you're on the job site and you need 2 more hours to finish rather than bringing back the equipment for the next day. It's more or less finishing off a project. When it comes down to, public safety, it's usually filling in, and it's generally, more of a last minute thing where somebody might be sick or they got called out of town for a reason and you need someone to come in and fill a shift. So it's, as a percentage, to me, it doesn't appear to be a major issue there.
Okay.
And that's how I look at it. And I think the thing to do is look at it each year, and as long as it's within that percentage and it's really not costing us any more, to have, 3 or 4 or 5% of the overall budget set aside for overtime, as long as there's a reason for it, And that's what I've looked at from really day one when I come in here. It doesn't seem to be an issue.
So when, I was also thinking, like, in terms of, say you're, okay, you've got your overtime budget is 20,000. So at time and a half, that would be 30,000. If someone was making 20 and they'd go up to 30. So that's obviously 50%, but what's sort of a rule of thumb that we would use for an employee if you factor in healthcare costs and stuff? What percentage of their regular salary is sort of the overhead cost to the town? Do we have any kind of number on something like that?
It's about 1.38, so 38%
Okay.
would be the benefit rate, and $1 would be the salary, and then 38% would pay for their fringe benefits and their healthcare and pension.
So there isn't too much of a spread between the two then? 1.5 versus 1.38, yeah.
Yeah, it's right. It's not, and it's unfortunately, because things always come up and nothing ever ends when it's supposed to. And overtime is not really a reward. It's to say, hey, I don't have anybody to fill a shift because of a vacation, because of sick, because of training. You can't predict whether the next person is going to get overtime filling that shift, or it might be straight time if it's a reserve officer or somebody who hasn't worked their full complement for the week. So I think it's much better looked percentage of the overall salary budget, we should aim to keep it at this percentage, and then measure that each year as we go forward. And if it goes up high one year, it could be because we had a lot of turnover, or, maybe there was maybe a high flu, some type of sickness that hit the department, or if there's a reason that it went above the average. And then, same thing, it could be, if it goes below the average, we could be in a situation where we didn't really have any turnover. It was a relatively mild winter. So I like to look at it because from, an annualized from each year to year to see if it stays within that percentage.
Okay, I guess our other concern was in terms of the percentage of the overtime of the year-to-date that had been, I left my paper in the office, but did you have it, Joe? Like, a couple of them, the amount of overtime for the year-to-date was way higher than the amount of, than how much of the year had been,
Percentage-wise,
percentage-wise, yeah.
right.
So we just don't want that to be a problem in April and May, that those budgets have been,
I saw that too, but the salary line in that department was also lower. So if you add them together, I think percentage-wise, they're either on or behind.
okay,
And sometimes it's good to track that from where you were last year at the same time, because overtime could be to cover vacations, it could be to staff up on other events that, annually occur in October, so you might spike up in October, but then it might get quiet in December. So sometimes if you look year over year on those, you get a better idea of what seasons we use the overtime.
okay.
That's it. Okay. Thanks. So next item is application for 2016 alcohol beverage renewal license. I move to approve the renewal of GB Enterprise on-premise license for 2016.
Second,
Discussion? All in favor?
aye.
Aye. I move to approve the off-premise license renewal for West Newbury Food Mart for the year 2016.
Second,
Discussion? All in favor?
aye.
Aye. Okay, the next item on the agenda is CPC and Habitat for Humanity. I don't know if Glenn had intended on talking about this. I know there's nobody here to talk about it, and there was a letter from the CPC committee that's basically informational on Habitat for Humanity. I don't know if anybody has anything to speak to about this, but,
I think we could just tell them that the committee is exploring whether Habitat for Humanity could build a single-family or duplex house on town-owned land, and they're looking at,
they were looking at options.
they're looking at possible sites, and it's nowhere near coming to fruition, but they are investigating it.
So they were just looking at site options, and then they were going to talk to various boards and committees and then come back to us. Yep. Yes.
I hate to interrupt, but we were told to be here at 7:15, and it looks like we're not on the agenda, are we? I just don't want to sit here for nothing.
For-
Not the corner. We received an email from Chris Pyle saying we were supposed to be here at 7:15, and we were supposed to meet with Lisa and Glenn and Tom Moody. But if we're not on the agenda, then we might as well leave. Mr. Kimber took it off the agenda because Mr.
Nevy.
Debbie was in Florida, and when he comes back, we're going to have him in. Someone couldn't hold us? I don't remember.
Chris Powell contacted us.
We got you.
Okay, you got
You
Cindy
contacted us
Sherman.
initially. I'm very sorry, I don't remember that. But, we received an email that it said we were supposed to be here at 7:15 to meet with Tom, like I just said.
No, but it was just a change on Wednesday.
when will we be notified of when it is?
We apologize for not letting you know when it has to be rescheduled, so once that's done,
It'll be in January.
sorry about that. I thought you were here for the parking, perhaps.
I came early to talk about that, but no.
Okay.
We were here for the 7:15.
Okay. Oh, well. Okay, so we're done with this Habitat for Humanity. Did you have a? Yeah, we were done with that. So the next item on the agenda is Mass Downtown Parking Initiative grant from the Planning Board. I know Leah wanted to be here to talk about this, but she had some childcare issues, and it's basically to make an application for a grant, which we need to approve that that's okay, and it's strictly for an analysis of the downtown area to see if there's any small business ways that we could support small business in town. So support retaining them, and if there's interest from any other businesses that would be apropos to the community. I don't know if there's anything else you want to add to that. So I guess we need to approve say it's okay for the grant application. So I move to approve the grant application for the Mass Downtown Initiative.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, next item is Hampshire County Health Trust requests. Mike?
Okay, so as everybody knows, there's a lot of changes going on in the healthcare industry. And last year, the Selectmen, after we did quite a bit of homework, we changed the percentage of contribution for the town and the employees. And that was partly because of some guidelines in the affordable healthcare that we had to avoid so the town wouldn't have to pay a tax. So that was one hurdle. The next hurdle we have is, you read a lot about it in the paper nowadays, it's still 2 years away, January of 2018, but it's for the so-called Cadillac tax. And what that states is any health plan that costs above $27,500 for a family and $10,400 for an individual will be subject to the Cadillac tax. It is 2 years away. However, our plans right now are not affected by that, but with the anticipated increase that we're looking at for next May, so fiscal year 2017, our plans would be subject to the Cadillac tax. So to avoid that, we're still working with area towns to form some type of group purchasing alliance where we could get better rates. One of the things that hurts us is that we're really small, so we're subject to the small group rates, which are the same for mostly everybody with less than 100 people. So
So the good thing to do is attach yourself to a group.
right. So what we've been trying to do is attach ourselves to a group that has similar benefits that we do, and we found one in the Hampshire County Health Trust. They have approximately 8,500 subscribers. They have Blue Cross Blue Shield as their provider, as do we, and they're willing to hear us out in potentially gaining membership to it. There's absolutely no obligation. It's probably close to a 4 to 6 month process. But before we can start it, we need approval from the Selectmen to go out to see if they would consider, a small town, outside their region, but it's not outside their charter. So if they said we could join, we would be able to join as long as we went through a series of steps. But where they have the same carrier as we do, the same plan for retirees that we offer, and their benefits are substantially cheaper than ours.
Their benefit cost is cheaper, or
Their
their
benefit
or their
cost.
benefits that they provide?
The overall premium is
The cost.
significantly less.
Okay.
So we would be able to, you know, it's a long shot, but it's a shot, that we would be able to join their trust, and reduce our premiums and keep with the same carrier, thereby avoiding the Cadillac tax.
Is it possible that they're cheaper because they're in Western Mass where healthcare costs might be lower and therefore Blue Cross is giving them a break there, but if they found out that we've got a town in Eastern Mass, that's going to upset the apple cart? In other words, are they cheaper simply because they're a bigger group, or is they cheaper because they're in an area where healthcare costs would be cheaper? They're not going to be going to the Beth Israel anywhere near as much as when they're in Franklin County.
I think all of the above. I think they're a larger group that gives them more purchasing power. They have a good history of claims. They have a mixture, the demographics is a mixture, and they're not near the teaching hospitals that tend to drive health costs in this area. But one could argue that we're 40 miles from Boston. So the teaching hospitals, for the most part, aren't people's first choice. You know, and they'll be able to tell that by looking at the claims history. And, you know, in an emergency, the healthcare is the closest hospital. So we're not inside the 128 belt. Like I said, this is only a chance, but if we don't look at these opportunities or these avenues, we're either gonna have to reduce benefits drastically or pay a tax on our benefits.
No, it sounds like a good idea,
Yeah.
if
And it's a long
they'll
shot,
let
don't get
you
me
do
wrong.
it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I applaud you for identifying it, and, I mean, I think we should look at every
Yeah.
option possible.
Mike, what, the very last, the second to last sentence here, tell us what the buy-in fee, what is that? How does that work?
It's customary when you start a healthcare trust to bring money to the table. And right now, they're estimating it to be either 3 months premium or 3 months claims history, which would put us in the $70,000 to $90,000 range. But what we're talking about saving on the backside, the payback period would be under 5 years. You know, and we would avoid the tax. Their premiums right now are close to 30% less than ours. So with our premium savings alone,
Can we amortize that buy-in fee over more than 1 year or not?
I'm trying not to get too creative yet. I'm just happy that they're
Yeah.
going on the agenda. So I'm hoping, you know, to work our way into certain things, but I at least want to get at the table, have a discussion about it. Hopefully they'll, you know, consider us. So I don't want to, I want them to know that, you know, we're a strong community, you know.
No, it sounds
It's just a shot.
like a great idea,
It's-
yeah.
You know, I mean, they may say, you know, we don't want to move this far east, or they may say it's a good way to diversify. Now that, you know, we don't know what they're gonna say. They're gonna look at our claims history, but with the way the rates are going, we don't have a choice but to look to team up with somebody.
Great idea. I mean, it seems I mean, not to get sidelined into the Affordable Care Act, but like if the threshold only adjusts by 2% a year, you know health insurance costs go up more than 2% a year. It's like, that's like a spiral. Like eventually everyone's going to not.
Right, and that's why I'm trying to get our bottom number as low as I can, just to, you know, because you need that amount of time to go over with people. You need a year to make changes and
Oh, yeah.
let people digest it, because you may not find, if this doesn't work out, you may not find that we could stay with our existing carrier because of the cost. So
Would
you at least
would the
want to
buy-in fee count as a premium in terms of calculating the tax?
How much is the tax?
it's gonna be, I believe,
40%.
40% of anything over the max, yeah. So if it's, 27.5 for a family, then and your premium is 30,000, it's 40% of 2,500.
Right, and that money would just be going to nowhere. That would be a, you know, a tax.
No, I just wondered if the buy-in would then kill the whole purpose of doing it. If they counted that as a premium, that's all.
Well, the buy-in in there, the buy-in is really to cover us when we decide to leave. If you're fortunate enough to get in, the buy-in pays the claims when you leave. That's their rationale. In other words, you know, normal turnaround time is anywhere from 45.
Oh, I
to
see,
65 days.
okay,
So it's really to pay the claims on the back end.
okay.
Yeah, whereas some require, you know, as much as $1 million in upfront money to start a healthcare trust, you know, all by itself, just to give it seed money.
Okay,
Great idea.
So,
I think we're all for it.
okay, so I would just get a letter, and I would say, look, the selectmen, you know, would be willing to entertain
Mhm.
acceptance, and
Okay.
that would be, you know, that would be great just to try.
Okay. Thanks. Invoice and payroll warrants. I move to approve the invoice and payroll warrants.
for what date? Whatever, it is. Okay, yeah.
Second. Second. Discussion?
None?
Yeah.
Aye.
I had a question,
Oh,
but it
okay.
was
Oh, you
answered.
did, okay.
No, it was answered previously, so
Okay.
I'm good. I had a question on holiday pay, but, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Placing of items on future agendas.
I had a question for Mr. McCarron. One of your suggestions, and I still think it's a great one, I think we should see if we could find out the people to do the, evaluate the consultant to evaluate the phone service in the town. And see if, I think it would be
You're talking about the town office buildings or the whole town?
the whole town, yeah. Let's like see how we can do some kind of consolidation. We have so many different plans and so many, I think we need an evaluation of what the town needs and see if we, but with the ultimate goal of saving money, but I think we should spend a little in a consultant to find out what we could actually do.
So to evaluate the service and the actual physical telephones, both of them?
Right,
You're talking about the town government, not the
right,
residents?
right,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly.
Okay.
Town government.
The library. and-
Yes, yeah, I just wanted to make everyone was clear.
I spoke with Lisa about that issue too, and she's all for that. She'd like to have that. There are individuals, there are companies that will basically come in and they'll do two things. One, and the most important one, is they'll basically give us an inventory of where we are. So we have a comprehensive knowledge of what lines we have, you know, what our usage is, where, you know, what our bill rates structures are. And the second thing is they'll give us some suggestions on possible alternatives. The advantage of these companies is that they're not involved in selling.
Right. You don't want to talk to Verizon or AT&T.
No.
Right.
But there are other companies too,
Right.
which we do. So I have a name of an individual. I've given Mike some information on that previously, a long time ago. And I'll contact them and ask if they can send us some information about doing exactly that. And
Okay.
then you can have an idea of what would be entailed.
What would they offer? And maybe we'd look at 2 or 3 people. And,
Mm-hmm.
okay,
Okay.
sounds good. Anything else?
That's it.
I know we had said this last time, we were going to invite Ray Cook and/or the planning board, they had sent us a letter on their right of first refusal. I think we had said to do that on the 14th. Yeah, okay. Okay, good. And the other thing I'd like to do is with the Finance Committee and Mike to talk about fiscal 17 budget priorities, just have a conversation, the three groups, to talk about where we're going to go, since we'll be beginning that process pretty soon. So if we could invite the Finance Committee.
So when do you want to do that, Joe? Next meeting?
I'd
or-
do it next meeting, yeah,
Okay.
because the next meeting after that is between Christmas and New Year's, which might be problematic to get some
Okay.
people. And then we're into the budget season, beginning of it. So that's all I have. So that's the end of the regular meeting. I don't see a reason to go into executive session unless you disagree, because there's nothing to talk about. Okay, I move to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.